Last night, we got a new expose from Project Veritas. In it, Twitter's lead client partner says that ideology has led them to be not profitable, that they don't make a profit. Well, that is a very bold and powerful get woke, go broke, but rather overtly. The guy saying, I don't know exactly what he's referring to, but he says it's going to say, he says we're not profitable, so it's going to say ideology, which is why we're not profitable. Maybe he's referencing someone else saying ideology will say they're not profitable, but it sounds to me like he's saying it's going to say ideology, which is why we're not profitable. So just want to issue that clarification, make sure we're all on board with this, but I think we got a very strong get woke, go broke. Well, my friends, how about I give you, as a bonus, another very big get woke, go broke. In this story from The Verge, Netflix is laying off 150 employees and cutting dozens from its Tudum fan site. Most affected employees are located in the U.S. Oh, say it ain't so. Now, for Netflix, I can empathize with people losing their jobs. It's not the same as, say, like the Washington Post or CNN or anything like that. But come on, man. You work for these companies. You know what they're doing. I'm not going to have all that much. I'm not going to cry for you. I'm not. Sorry, it's not going to happen. But it's not just this one story. It is also this from theinformation.com. Netflix cancellations rise among long-standing subscribers. This is it. Now, part of me wonders, is what's happening to Netflix really get woke, go broke, or are tastes changing? Do people have different desires from their streaming services, or perhaps technology has advanced to the point where there's just too many? Could it also be that Netflix is just kind of bad? I haven't watched Netflix in a while, actually. They lose a lot of good shows. They don't have really good movies. They've made shows and then abandoned them. It's like, you've got a show, Netflix, and it's not getting you 10 million views, not Game of Thrones or anything, but you cancel it. And see, I liked that show. Here's the issue. With Netflix and other services like it, Netflix has more and more content coming out. They had a show called The Order. I liked it. I don't think it was the greatest show in the world. It was like CW level, werewolf, vampire, witch drama or something like that. No vampires. It was witches and werewolves or something. But I liked it. I wanted to see where the story was going. I liked the lore and it was fun. And they canceled it after 2 seasons. That was like the only show I liked watching. Now, there are many other shows on Netflix, I'm sure, that are fine. I think I watched Attack on Titan on Netflix. Maybe not. No, I think I watched that on Amazon, to be honest. But if you're someone, let's say 500,000 people watch a Netflix show and you're one of those people. Netflix says, we're not getting enough views. Cancel it. Okay, well, then you leave. So I think that plays a role. But when you combine these two stories and you see that long-standing Netflix subscribers are leaving, I believe this is absolutely a get woke, go broke, especially when you jump to the story from just a few days ago, where Netflix told its woke employees, if you don't like it, maybe Netflix isn't the place for you. And that's it. Netflix is laying people off, they're losing subs, and they're telling woke people to shut your mouths. Finally. It's unfortunate it had to get to this point before a company took action, but until their bottom line was hurt. Now, the funny thing about Twitter is that they're not profitable, and for some reason, they're not getting the big picture. Well, maybe Elon Musk will come in. The story from The Verge. Netflix is laying off around 150 employees, as well as dozens of contractors following a disappointing earnings report citing slow revenue growth. You want to know why I got rid of Netflix? It was Cuties. They published Cuties and defended it. I mean, first of all, why would you publish that film? The left was defending it like crazy, like it's just critique. It's critique. It's like, no, it's actual little girls performing these dances in a film. Like, I don't care what the theme of the film is. I care that they actually took little girls and did that. I'm not a fan. I think it's messed up. Then you have Big Mouth, which I rag on all the time. Big Mouth is adults doing comedy, but it's a cartoon about children engaged in sex acts. So, no, Netflix, you are messed up. What? It's funny because, if you've watched Timcast IRL, Ian. Ian and I disagree on so much. But just last week, Ian was like, he's like, dude, I know we disagree on a lot, but I watched that and I was like, what the is this? And I'm like, yeah, I know. 7 seasons of kids doing these things. And I'm just like, what is wrong with Netflix? You deserve it, Netflix. That's why you lost me. And me and my family, we've been on Netflix since it started. We used to get the discs in the mail. Remember that? Netflix started with, you'd like, what would you do? You'd go online and you'd be like, I would like this movie. And then they would send you the DVD. Then once the internet improved, streaming service emerged. And all of a sudden, many of the movies are just available online. And so we're like, this is cool. We started using it. YouTube got hurt by it because all of a sudden you had premium quality content and movies available for streaming. And then Netflix was like, let's do weird stuff with kids. And I was like, that's disgusting. Don't do that. The streaming giant told The Verge that most employees affected by the layoffs are located in the U.S. Mason Hall issued a following statement in response to The Verge's request for comment. I want to mention, they say a source told The Verge, the cuts include at least 26 contractors. And blah, 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 blah. Prior to the recent round of layoffs, Netflix cut around 25 marketing roles. So this is stacking up. They said, as we explained on earnings, our slowing revenue growth means we are also having to slow our cost growth as a company. So sadly, we are letting around 150 employees go today, mostly US based. These changes are primarily driven by business needs rather than individual performance, which makes them especially tough as none of us want to say goodbye to such great colleagues. We're working hard to support them through this very difficult transition. A number of agency contractors have also been impacted by the news. Announced this morning, we are grateful for their contributions. Last quarter, Netflix reported losing around 200,000 subscribers. They're going to mention a disclosure. The Verge is producing a series with Netflix. Well, Netflix, you haven't learned your lesson, have you? The Verge, you want to get woke? You want to go broke? I don't care. The Verge is more establishment left garbage. I don't mind reading their stories when their stories are clear cut, but that's The Verge. I'll give them some credit on a few of their reports. They called out Twitter for their lies. It is what it is. But these New York based, whatever. Similar. The Information says Netflix cancellations rise among long-standing subscribers. Let's talk about how they try to justify this. What's really happening? Oh, it's not our fault. It's just, things are changing in the world. Or get woke, go broke. Take a look. Netflix is losing its grip on long-standing subscribers. New data show that people who have been subscribed to Netflix for more than 3 years accounted for a significantly greater share of cancellations in the first quarter than they did 2 years earlier. And there, my friends, is the data you need to see. Take a look at this. Streaming away. We can see this. If you're a subscriber for less than a year, you got the red box. 1 to 2 years is blue. Light blue is 2 to 3. And gray is 3 or more. We can see in the first quarter of 2022, it was their longer viewers they were losing more of. Now, they lost viewers across the board, a lot of one-year viewers. I do think it's fair to say that Netflix is losing subscribers because of things like Paramount Plus, HBO Max. I got all those services too. You know what's funny? Someone said, you've got all these streaming services like Paramount, HBO. If only there was a way that someone could, bundle it all up so that it's all in like one package, and they could call it something like to represent that. Maybe like if you took a bunch of strands and spiraled them together, it would be a cable of sorts. So maybe we could take all of these different streaming services, and then you could pay like, I don't know, $70 a month to get access to all of them. And we would bundle them together and we would call it a cable or just cable TV as you get the point. Okay. Cable TV. It's basically what it was. All these channels were bundled together. Now you got all these streaming services where they're like, subscribe to us for $5 a month. People are basically spending the same thing, and they're basically getting the same thing. It's just weird. Just offer up a streaming cable platform. Offer up an app that has all of these, and you pay one fee, and they're all included in it. I suppose you don't need to do that anymore because now people are just choosing what they want. I mean, HBO was always like a premium add-on for cable. If you had cable, you'd be like, I'll spend the extra $10 a month to get HBO. Here's what they say. The data provided exclusively to The Information by research firm Antenna show the rising popularity so far of Comcast and Peacock and Paramount Global, Paramount Plus, among other streaming subscribers. Ahead of Warner Brothers, HBO Max, and Disney Hulu, both Peacock and Paramount have benefited from beefing up their program offerings, including in the case of Peacock, the Super Bowl in February. Blah, 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 blah. They're going to mention that Netflix is losing subscribers. The one thing they're not going to tell you is that Netflix has been rocked by very serious political controversies. And if we were to look at quarter 4 of last year to quarter 1 of this year, I wonder what it could be. Could it be political controversies? How is it that in quarter 4 of last year, you have 2.5 million cancellations, but then you see a nearly 30% increase, 3.6 million cancellations a month in the next quarter? We did see, okay, in quarter 2 of 2020, a big jump from 2.1 to 2.8. But for the most part, cancellations are steady. What changed? Why? Why right now? These other streaming services have been around for a long time. Yo, I'm telling you, it's get woke, go broke. The New York Post. Carol Markowitz writes, Netflix is proof Americans have had enough of woke speech policing. Last week, Netflix issued a long memo detailing the company culture it hopes to foster. The streaming service lays out that it produces a variety of content and won't allow its employees to cut programming. Netflix lets viewers decide what's appropriate for them. And if the employee doesn't like it, there's the door. Quote, depending on your role, you may need to work on titles you perceive to be harmful. If you'd find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the best placed for you. Netflix employees famously protested Dave Chappelle's stand-up comedy special last year. Now, I'd say it's possible people canceled because of Dave Chappelle. No, I don't buy it. I really don't. If people canceled because of Dave Chappelle, they were like, he made an offensive joke about this group or that group, I'm quitting. We would have seen that in his previous stand-up specials like Sticks and Stones. But it was critically acclaimed. I mean, that was years ago. That was a long time ago. It was acclaimed. Dave Chappelle, everybody thought it was hilarious. People weren't quitting because of that. Why would people quit now? Well, everybody seems to have loved Dave Chappelle's stand-up, except the critics. And they stayed on the platform. And then Dave Chappelle produces his third, The Closer. I thought it was awful. Okay, not awful. I thought it was bad. Like, there were many funny parts in it. Dave Chappelle is really, really funny. But what was, the comedy was good, but what was bad, it really just felt like Dave Chappelle was trying to justify his humor and defend himself. It seemed like he really got angry. And he wasn't up there telling jokes and having a good time for the most part. It's like he was really worried and he even said, y'all don't get the joke, so I'm not going to do them anymore. And I'm just like, okay, I'm out. Bro, if you can't stand up for yourself, if you're so worried about these people, dude, I don't care. I think Dave Chappelle is one of the funniest guys who's ever lived. They call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. It's crazy how good Dave Chappelle is. It's crazy how amazing his show was. It's amazing how his Netflix stand-up specials were so great. And then The Closer is like, dude, they got you, man. They got you. Stop. Just stop. Just do your thing. Ignore these people. You know, we've seen shows with Ryan Long. Ryan Long is outright just like, dude, don't care. He's like, he goes up there, he tells jokes, he says naughty words, and he's offensive, and people love it and they laugh. It's comedy. Joe Rogan says similar things, but dude, if you're going to get pushed back by that, if you're going to get held down by that, well, then maybe people don't want to watch anymore. So for me, I'm looking at Netflix and I'm like, what do they have to offer? Cuties? I don't think Cuties is the catalyst for the cancellations. For the same reason, I don't think Dave Chappelle is. Conservatives got offended by Cuties. Many quit, but I don't think all that many. In fact, maybe that's why we see the big spike we do, you know, in quarter two of 2020. Although I think when was Cuties? I don't actually even remember the exact time it came out. I don't think conservatives outright abandoned Netflix because of this. I think with the latest, I think it's a combination of new streaming services are growing in prominence, and a lot of long-standing users are just like, I just can't take it anymore. I'm just done. The reason why I think that's the most likely case is that Netflix issued a memo saying, if you don't like it, you can leave. Because I think they recognize what's hurting their business. People who have been on Netflix for longer than 3 years, I'll put it this way. When Zuby posted that meme, I think it was Zuby, I posted the meme following him that said, it's like, who radicalized you? And the guy says, no one. I'm just a regular person from 10 years ago. That explains it. And it's funny because I've had progressives say, dude, that proves you're a conservative. Because like people in 1964, they were like, I'm just a regular person from 1954. And they didn't like the change in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, blah, 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 blah. You know, these are very different things. Advocating for eugenics, I'm not okay with. Eugenics failed in the 1900s. When the left comes out and says that they're in favor of killing babies, I'm sorry, terminating the life of a fetus post-viability because of abnormality or defect. Let's make sure we use their language properly. I'm like, yo, that's eugenics. When they're like people with Down syndrome, you know, when they advocate for aborting babies with Down syndrome, I'm like, that is eugenics. Okay? I'm not a fan of that. I believe that you need a diverse gene pool in order to create a strong and robust species. If you start purging undesirable traits, where does it end? Eventually, you're going to end up with people being like, well, he's going to be how tall? Well, the DNA profile suggests he's only going to be 5'10". Now, abort. Someone who's 5'10" can't survive in a 6-foot world? Come on. Look at all of the Tinder profiles with like, if you ain't over 6, I'm not going to be hooking up with you or whatever. So these guys are getting angry. What happens when you get to designer babies? Eventually, you eliminate certain traits. Eugenics kills species. Because you need genetic diversity. A virus emerges, and all of a sudden it's like there's a gene in the body that correlates with the production of an enzyme, and people who happen to be a little bit tall, and then tall people all get wiped out. I mean, I'm not suggesting we see that, but I mean things like this are possible. Certain carriers of certain genes are more susceptible to this virus and die. Let's say you eliminate all of genetic diversity, you risk destroying your species. So this is why when I see people say things like, we should abort at 8 months if the baby's got some kind of defect, I'm like, that's eugenics. I'm not in favor of that. I don't like these things. You can see that something 10 years ago that within the past 10 years is emerging. It is not a good thing. So this is what I mean to say. People in 2010 who are on Netflix probably think, terminating a baby's life after 8 months, not a good thing. Netflix runs Michelle Wolf's, you get an abortion, shut your abortion. And there's probably a lot of people from 10 years ago who are like, you've gone too far. They're not conservative. They're reasonable. And when Netflix starts going too far, they say, all right, I'm out. I'm done. I'm not going to be on this platform anymore. I think that's what we're seeing. I think the big change, I will say this. The fact that Netflix issued their statement and the fact that there's a major jump between quarters suggests to me it is politics. It is get woke, go broke. I think that maybe Netflix is starting to succumb to millennial takeover. This is going to be interesting. Millennials, man, our generation are a bunch of lunatics. For all the things we complain about for boomers, millennials are just awful. But I suppose I can just say that it's the boomers' fault millennials are awful. Some people say, you're forgetting Gen X, man. Well, millennials are predominantly the children of boomers. And then you do have, I suppose, later younger millennials who are the children of Gen Xers. But not for the most part. I think, what was Gen X? Gen X is like the 70s. So they were in their 20s in the 90s. So kids who are in like the mid 90s, they are millennials, I suppose. But like, there's still a difference. Maybe it's split. But they're like leaps in generation, sort of. But anyway, I think Gen Xers, they want edgy comedy. I think boomers, they like it as well. Millennials, lunatics. As the millennials take over these industries and they're overtly woke and crazy, the content suffers. Gen Xers and boomers don't want to watch it. They dip out. And they're the ones who are likely to have been on for 10 years because they're older. So you got a boomer who they're going to be what, in their 40s? What is it? No, 50s. You got Gen X and Gen X and boomers. They're going to be in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, going into the Netflix era. They sign up, and now we're at the point where the content is garbage. They're canceling shows. It's overtly woke. Millennials start taking over, have no idea what's going on, and the people who've been on the longest are like, I'm out. I don't know what this is. This is not appealing to me. And now there are boomers who are running these companies are saying like, what's happening, dude? You got cultural problems. 4 million cancellations, the highest point, 3.6. That's where we're at. You've got cultural problems, and I don't know what the solution is. Perhaps Netflix, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to find a semi-rural area, just out of the suburbs, but in the more rural area, where you're going to find moderate center-right individuals who believe in comedy and free speech. You're going to have to hire them to run these companies because the woke millennial is not fun, not funny, and not entertaining. You want to be pure flicks, Netflix? You want to make cringy garbage? Go ahead and do it. I canceled over the cuties nonsense. I'm sure a bunch of other people are canceling for similar reasons. The Dave Chappelle nonsense, your employees walk in. I'm not giving money to this. I know people who still fund it, and truth be told, I do have Amazon. This is why I say, here's what we got to do. Alternatives. Head over to timcast.com, be a member. Help us build more and do crazy stuff so we can rival these companies. I understand if you don't want to cancel Netflix or Disney. I do. Because I bought Disney for a year, so I still have it, but I canceled, so it won't renew. Because I was like, I'll watch some of these shows. But now I'm just like, I don't want to do it anymore. But we like entertainment. So we need alternatives. We need TV shows. Daily Wire's been producing. Maybe they'll be in full swing by next year. I want to see, you're going to need big shows. Daily Wire has, I think, 3 movies. They got several more coming out. It's not enough. If we can produce entertainment, then people can be like, well, I don't like Netflix. I'm going to cancel them because I know I can subscribe to Timcast.com and get shows I do like. Timcast.com does not have shows. I mean, we do. We have like podcasts, though. We need scripted television stuff. We're working on expanding the vlog. The goal is to make it semi-scripted, to make it like a comedy show. And we've had this plan for some time now. It's just not our area of expertise. We've got to find the people, and it is hard to find good people these days. It really, really is. We've got some ideas in mind. We want to make stuff to compete with the insanity. And we're going to do it with your help. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.